All right, we are rolling.
Rolling.
All right, thanks for joining us, everyone. We had a big UFC fight last night. UFC 252 went down, so Juan and I decided, we wanted to let you guys know what we think, give our breakdowns of the fights here. This is something that Juan and I have been doing for quite a long time, just between the two of us going back and forth. So figure we might as
Years.
well, share it with all of you and kind of get a bigger conversation going. So would love to hear y'all's reactions and what you think about all the fights and our reviews and everything. But before we get started here, I just wanted to ask my man a question real quick. Juan, what's going on with that eye, man? Did you take a DC eye poke last night? What's going on here?
Stipe. So I was there in Vegas last night. I don't know if y'all saw me. I was in the octagon, and Stipe actually got me as well. So it hurts. It hurts real bad. I actually had to skip a date. Had a first date in a while scheduled, and I was like,
You had to blow it off?
I had to. I was in physical pain. So this is 2 days ago. I woke up and my eye was just like this.
Wow.
So I don't know if I hit it on a corner of a nightstand in my sleep, or if I punched myself, or if my cat just two-pieced me, or if he gave me my cat gave me a 3-piece of the soda and in my sleep. I don't know what happened, but I was in physical pain. It was like my whole orbital bone was it was hurting. And so I had to call this girl. I'm like, yo, and then I feel so bad because I'm so awkward with Tinder dates and Bumble and Hinge and all that. I'm so awkward because I can have conversation with anybody, but then it's oh man, now I gotta actually meet you. This is weird.
So what was your excuse? What did you tell her?
I just sent her a video in my eye and I was look straight up. This is what I woke up. This is what I'm dealing with.
Oh, she ain't hitting you back up after that, man. You got to lie in that situation.
No, this one and this one legit likes me. This is the second time I've blown her off, and she's still well, hopefully we can do something next week. I'm like, wow, you are a trooper. You are a trooper, and she definitely deserves a date. I hope my eye's gonna be okay. We're living in 2020 with no health care, especially for all my other fellow entertainment workers out there. Yeah, so I I'm gonna give the old crossing the fingers, hoping it heals itself.
The old fingers crossed, hoping you wake up one day and it's all good. I mean, I feel you on the no healthcare thing. When I got laid off earlier in the year, I lost my healthcare as well. I don't want to get too sidetracked on the healthcare thing because I am very opinionated on it.
Yeah,
but I just wanted to address that real quick so our viewers aren't just is Keith talking to a Terminator today? What's going on here?
Yeah. I woke up like DC, man. So, and I also
DC.
don't have a career anymore. Yeah,
we're gonna get to the DC fight here, but I wanted to start things off at the beginning of the main card. We've got John Dodson, the Magician, versus Merab Dvalishvili. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah.
I had honestly never heard of Merab before. Apparently, he had come off a pretty long break, but he's got a lot of run in the UFC. That dude kind of looks like a beast.
Yeah. I forget how long exactly they said he was off, but I feel like it was years.
It's been a long time,
and he came back and he was impressive. He was very impressive,
especially against somebody like John Dodson, who, I remember his fights with Demetrius Johnson back in the day is when I first saw DJ kind of get pushed a little bit by Dodson there. They call him the Magician. He's a hard guy to hit, even harder guy to get down or to hold down, I suppose, once you take him down. Something that popped into my mind kind of unrelated last night. I don't know what it is about John Dodson, if it's his face or if it's his body type or what, but he just reminds me of the dude from Key and Peele, Jordan Peele. For some reason, John Dodson reminds me of Jordan Peele out there in the octagon.
That's pretty classic.
I was watching a skit that they did, and they were back and forth two fighters interviewing before a fight. So I guess I had
No,
Jordan Peele on my mind going into that, but I don't know what it is. I mean, he doesn't look like him, but for some reason,
I kind
you
of get
just
what
saw
you're
it.
saying though. Well, because his pro fight headshot is like it's hilarious. He's rocking
it.
the fro.
And something about his body type, like he just, if you saw that guy in the street, you would not think he's a UFC fighter.
No,
But here he is. He's 22-12 now in his pro career. Um, I think he's kind of been bumped to perennial gatekeeper status at this point. He moved up from 125 to 135. 135
yeah,
is looking like a stacked division these days.
yeah.
Remember
It's
when?
really starting to.
Yeah, I remember when Cruz originally was the champion there, and I mean, you couldn't name five people in the 135. And nowadays, I mean, that the top of the heap is really stacked in there. I love Piotr Jan. I think that dude is an animal. Aljamain Sterling
Yeah,
is a beast. That's going to be a great fight. There's a ton of good guys at the beginning of that, at the top of that division. But Marab, man, whew, looks like a killer. He's big for that division too. Like he's stout.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, it definitely helped him last night because I mean, John Dodson's 5'3",
Yeah.
So I mean, he looked like a little bitty guy in there. I mean, he is a little bitty guy, but you know, 35 to 35 years old, man.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
had a lot of ups and downs in his career, but Marab, man, came out, controlled the fight, owned that position, holding him, against the cage for that whole first round, dropping knees to the dead leg zone just
Oh my
repeatedly,
gosh, I
and Dante was just
know.
taking him like it didn't even hurt him. I know that didn't feel good.
No, there's no way. And it's crazy because whenever they broke from the clinch off the fence, after he had just taken all that punishment, like in his it's funny, they kept on saying like his quad. It's like, dude, it's the back, that's his hammy. But
That's a ham.
whatever. Whatever. I mean, you're calling the fight, I'm not, so whatever. But yeah, I mean he just popped right back out. I mean, I'm sure adrenaline and everything, and he's also tensed up in there, but he is feeling all those shots today.
Oh yeah,
Guaranteed.
he's walking with a limp this morning for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
might
Kind of a
even get in the wheelchair. Might even be in a wheelchair.
hey, he could be. Side note, great to have Joe Rogan back in commentating last night. I don't think
Yes.
I had heard him since they started the Fight Island. So it had been a long time since Rogan had been calling the fights. It was a welcomed experience last night.
Yeah, for sure. Did he do any of the Apex stuff before Fight Island? Maybe one or two. I don't think he did. I think he kind of just stayed put in L.A.
Yeah, it had been a long time since I had heard Rogan. I know Bisping was getting a lot of run, and then they had Paul Felder and Dan
And
Hardy was doing some of the later
and
ones
Dan
for
Hardy
Fight
ain't coming
Island.
back.
Oh, after the whole thing with Herb Dean.
Idiot. Good.
That's sad. That's tough because I really enjoy listening to Dan Hardy. I think he
Yeah.
brings kind of a different perspective from the announcer's table. I love his accent, but he's a really smart guy. And he does a great segment breaking down the fights, like leading up to the fights, breaking down the fighters, I should say, and how their styles are
Hmm.
going to match up. Um, yeah, so I hope they don't hold that against him too bad because he's definitely someone I love hearing on the mic. But getting back to the fight here, Marab, uh, his post-fight interview was awesome. He really kind of tugged at my heartstrings. He was talking about how he was a full-time construction worker coming into this fight still.
Hmm.
And now after last night, he's going to have the ability to get himself a house here in the U.S. and be able to just train full-time. That's one of the things I love about the UFC. They get a lot of hate about fighter pay, but they do turn around the lives of a lot of people and give opportunity to some folks that wouldn't have really had it otherwise.
Yeah, and in one night, I mean, obviously it takes weeks and weeks of preparation, leading up, but I mean, I don't know if it's a great example or not. It's just what popped in my head. But I mean, think about if you go through, like we go through summer football, you go through a whole camp and then you have your first game. Well, after that, what if you just got a year's salary after your first game? That's it. That's kind of how I look at it. It's like, these guys go through, 4 to 6 weeks, some a little bit longer for a full camp. They have their one night, boom, 80 G's, you know, not too shabby.
Yeah, I'm
Not
not sure how many of them are making quite 80 G's. I would love to see
well,
the numbers on that. I'm not so
I
sure if he got a post-fight bonus.
I went
I
over.
don't think
I
he
actually have
did.
the. I'll have to. I had the numbers in front of me today. Now I should have kept them in front of me. Yeah, you're right. Because even like the disappointment show, the sugar show, he only got like 40, which
Yeah,
I was surprised.
a lot of them, unless you're co-main or main event, they're definitely not up above that 40, 50K. I mean, some of these guys are just a couple grand
Um, I don't know about a couple. Well, not well, definitely not in the main card, obviously.
on the main card. Yeah, you're right.
Let me go back here. Yeah, I know Cormier got a half a million plus I think like 40. Yeah, it was 40. It was 500 and then the week of bonus or what the week of pay. It's they call it something that's like a week show or something like that. Um he got 40 and then Stipe ended up getting 750 plus the 40. So he almost came in with 800
Go
k.
Stipe.
Yeah. And then who knows if they have any sort of deal worked out. I'm sure at Stipe and DC's level they have some sort of pay-per-view deal worked in there as well so they can get some bonus money coming
Yeah, I
in.
think anytime you're having a championship fight or you're main eventing, I think they get points on the pay-per-view. I'm not positive on that. See, I was able to pull it up here. See, Pineda, Burns.
Yeah, I should have saved that.
Dotson walked out with 60K and a loss. 45K was guaranteed. Marab,
Look,
okay, yeah, you were right. 50K plus a 50K win and a 5K promotion bonus. 105 on the night for Marab. Way to go,
yeah,
young man. Good
coming
for
in.
you.
Yeah, Marab coming in. Take a look at what Dos Santos got in the loss, coming out with a half a mil. I believe over a half a mil.
Yeah, 520. Wow. That dude is a veteran.
He is a veteran, but look at what the winner got. Rosenstrike, like 180.
85.
Oh,
Wait,
is that what it
what?
was? I thought it was
Yeah,
180.
hold on. This thing I've got up pulled up right here says he lost though. There's no way that's right. I think he got a 100K bonus. So yeah, it sounds right. 80
Okay.
guaranteed plus a 100K win bonus. So
Yeah.
Junior only did 420, which I mean, that's still I would kill somebody for that kind of money.
Yeah. And he lost respectably. So
That was a good fight. I enjoyed watching that, but we'll get to that here in a
yeah.
second. So
Yeah.
So Marab, great showing in the first fight of the main card there. I loved seeing him put on. I want to know what the story is behind the little hat that he wore. It was like a Khabib, like one of the things that Khabib wears, but it was
Yeah. Yeah.
black. So I'll have to
Huh.
do a little bit of research into what's going on there because I know Khabib's got a story behind his. I don't want to butcher that, but anyway, moving along to the second fight of the night. We've got Herbert, the younger brother of Gilbert Burns, facing off against Daniel Pitt Pineda. Pitt, what a terrible nickname.
Yeah. There's a few of them out there.
Coming into this fight, Burns had missed weight. He weighed in 3.5 pounds overweight, I want to say. So, boom, 20% of his cut off the top went to Pineda. But Burns, I mean, this is a guy I saw fight recently, and he looked a lot better. He's a very highly skilled jiu-jitsu guy. I don't know. He had to have been nursing some kind of injury coming into last night.
Yeah. I mean, they were talking about it quite a bit, and I would have to agree because even his body, I mean, in other fights, I mean, his body just looked way better. I mean, he looked like he had just kind of come off of quarantine, just chill.
Yeah,
I mean, still it's not like he's looking fat by any means, but I mean, his body did not look ready to fight at all. I mean, he looked like
at all.
he almost had like a mini dad bod going on.
And it
Like
showed in the ring. He didn't.
yeah.
He just looked like he gassed out in that second round, and Pineda jumped on him. I mean, So Pineda ends up getting him in a crucifix, holding both of his arms to a point that he can't really defend himself, and his head was wide open. And Pineda's just on top, blasting him with bows straight to the face. The crucifix isn't really a position that you see very often in the UFC anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Back, years ago, when people weren't as well rounded, that was a little more likely to happen. You get a guy that's got a lot better ground game than the other guy, but fighters are so balanced these days, you really don't see a guy get dominated in that way very often anymore. And it was just a really surprising fight for me all around to see him get just absolutely dominated.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hopefully he can bounce back. I mean, he's still got a nice record. Obviously, he is the younger brother. You said, right, of Gilbert Burns.
I believe he's the younger brother. I'm
Okay,
not positive on that by any means, though.
okay. It would. I just they have to be related in some way. But yeah, I mean, he's got an 11-3 record. I mean, he's got plenty of time. But yeah, that was a pretty bad performance. Hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully he can bounce back. But yeah.
And for Pineda, I believe that's his second stint in the UFC as well. Last night was him coming back after having fought in the UFC years ago. But that featherweight division, I mean, we were talking about bantamweight being stacked. I think featherweight at the top is crazy right now. Max, I hear, is going to be fighting Calvin Kattar here soon, which I love that matchup because Kattar is a hella underrated striker. That dude can box with the best of them.
Yeah.
Massachusetts' own. I really thought Kattar could have, or the tide was turning in that fight with him and Zabit. Zabit looking like a perennial number one contender, soon to be getting a title shot. Curious to see how things shake out with, Yair having to pull out of that fight. I was really looking forward to that fight. But featherweight is super, super deep right now. And can't wait to see, the kind of matchups they can bring forward in the future there.
Oh, it's looking bright. It is definitely looking bright, and I'm psyched because the UFC is not going anywhere.
They've got a great fight that was booked. I'm not so sure if they've rebooked it, but Korean Zombie versus Brian T. City Ortega. Oh, I hope that fight goes through, man. I cannot wait to see those two go at it. That'd be a scrap.
I haven't seen Korean Zombie in a long time. Long time.
He's fought more recently than T. City has, I believe. A
Really?
couple fights even. Yeah, because I'm not so sure Ortega has fought since he got whooped up by Max. And that was a tough fight to watch for me. I like T City, and seeing him getting crushed like that, and Max put a hurting on that dude. Okay, here we go. Breaking. Zombie versus Ortega slated to main event October 17th UFC event. Let's go.
Hey-o.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Dude, I love watching the Zombie fight, man. He's a bad dude. We'll see. So he fought December last year. He beat Frankie Edgar. Oh, that was tough to watch.
Frankie.
And then he fought in June of 2019 too. He beat Moicano, knocked him out. And then his last fight before that was November of 2018, the Yair fight, which that still hurts me thinking about that. Did you watch that fight, Zombie versus Yair?
I don't think that I did. I'm pretty sure it's a free fight online, though, so I'm going to have to go back and watch that.
Bro, you need to go check that out. That's one of the greatest finishes in UFC history.
Or maybe I have, and it just doesn't. Because, I wasn't really hip to Korean Zombie, for a while.
Oh, I love that dude. I mean, he's got wins over, he beat Dennis Bermudez, lost to Aldo in a title fight. He beat Dustin Poirier at 145. He's got some good wins on his resume, man. He was fighting when him and Yair fought. It was a very back and forth battle, but Zombie was definitely winning going into the final minute of the fight. And it was the most crazy, spectacular finish I have ever seen, I think, in my years of watching the UFC. So last 10 seconds, they hear the clap and they just start going in on each other. Both of them are just screw this, dude. I'm trying to KO this guy.
Yeah.
And I think Zombie came over top with a right or somehow got off balance, and Yair had ducked underneath of the shot and came up with an upwards elbow and caught Zombie on the chin and KO'd him in the last, literally at the bell. Otherwise, he was about to win on the judges' scorecards, but
Oh,
Yair ended up taking it via KO, dude. It was crazy. Fifth round, 4 minutes and 59 seconds is the official when they called it. It was nuts, man. It was absolutely nuts. Highly recommend anybody, if you haven't seen that fight, go back and check that out, man. That was one of the greatest fights in UFC history. I
I've
think it
got
was
it.
fight of the year that year.
I've got it. I don't know if you saw me jump. I totally forgot that because I usually have all my videos like set on mute, and then I have to turn them just because I hate hearing like the ads. It's just really annoying. And I usually
Right.
have it on a speaker so it's loud. But since we're not muted, I guess it wasn't muted. And when it came on, it came on. So I was like, oh my gosh. It came on so loud. But yeah, I've got it up right now, just like the quick, like little like 60-second recap. So
Oh yeah, do
I'm trying
yourself a
to catch
favor and check that out, man. That was a
catch a
fun,
look.
fun fight. All right,
Oh
so
dang.
we got Pineda
Yeah.
with the KO over Burns. Did you think that was an early stoppage?
Um Not really. I mean, no. Pineda was hype. Super hype after that. That was fun to watch.
I saw some tweets where people were kind of upset about the stoppage. I thought it was a good stoppage, man. He was defenseless. He had taken plenty of unreturned shots to the dome, and those were very powerful elbows coming down on him. Completely
Yeah.
agree with the stoppage there.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, these referees have such a tough job,
Yeah.
but if they I mean, just like these fighters, if they've made it to a main card, they've made it to the big leagues. They've made it to a big stage, so they're going to be the best of the best referees. It's just how it is, you know. And I usually always go with the referee's decision, because they're in there, they're seeing stuff we're not seeing. They're right next to this dude, and his face is getting destroyed, and
Yeah.
they're also thinking, okay, like this guy's obviously, like, and maybe they even know the fighter, and I'm sure in a lot of cases they do, especially with a guy like Herb Dean, um, he's gonna know every single fighter. So if he sees a fighter maybe not fighting up to that person's standards, he's thinking, man, maybe this guy's off and he's getting destroyed. Let me save this guy's life real quick, because he'll take a loss and gladly, before he takes a lifelong injury. So
I want to say that fight was Mark Goddard, but he had
mm,
definitely warned him to, fight back, defend himself. And he was in that crucifix for, it seemed like an eternity, just getting teed off on. So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
completely agree with the decision. Pineda, terrible nickname, great tattoo game. Can't wait to see that tattoo on his back once he finally gets it filled in. That thing was cool.
yeah.
All
Oh
right,
man,
so moving along the main card, the fight that I was probably second most excited about, Junior Cigano dos Santos versus Jairzinho Rosenstrike. Man, I was really looking forward to this one. I thought Cigano came out and looked great in the first round. He was light on
yeah,
his feet. He was respecting Jairzinho's power, getting in and out. He was working the jab, working the body shot. I think he started it off with a nice low leg kick, and then the wheels just fell off, man.
yeah.
Jairzinho is powerful. Oh my goodness.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. He is humongous. I mean,
He's
the
terrifying.
heavyweight, yeah. I mean, the heavyweights have always kind of been my favorite to watch, just because,
Absolutely
like,
agree. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, at any moment, any one of those heavyweights can just rock you to bed. I mean, completely put you to sleep. And that was the case, and you could tell. And I will say, Dos Santos looked terrific. I mean, I agree, he looked light on his feet. He just looked like he was in phenomenal shape. And and
Rocking a
he looked
great mustache too.
yeah, 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 and he looked super prepared. But you could also see there was a lot of respect there. I mean, equal mutual respect on both ends. But you could really tell that he was like, I don't know. I feel like I could just see him thinking, like, man, if this guy tags me a couple times, it's all she wrote.
That's a wrap.
It's a
And
wrap. Yeah, totally.
I feel like the smaller cage might have come into that fight a little bit.
Hmm.
Junior was trying to back up, and it looks like he just ran out of real estate. And that right hand came whooping around. I
Oh
mean,
my
that's going to
gosh,
knock out
man.
anybody in the world. I mean, I think Joe Rogan said last night that that dude that would knock out a mule. Like that dude is he's terrifying,
It's
man.
accurate. It's accurate. Yeah. Yeah. He is humongous, and he's looking at an 11-1 record. I mean, he's putting himself in really good position, I
He
mean,
came into the UFC with a
he's
really good background, kickboxing, and I remember watching his first couple fights. Um, just terrifying, fights the way he looks, right?
yeah, yeah.
And did you see the Overeem fight?
Yes, I watched that actually yesterday before the fights. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anything quite as disgusting in a UFC fight as when Jarzinho hit Alistair in the mouth and busted his lip open like that.
And
Oh,
he was just
I still shudder just thinking about it, man. That was disgusting.
and he was just walking around like, what? My lip's okay. Like, what? Like, what do you mean the fight's over? Like, what?
I felt so bad for Reem too because he was winning that fight, and that was
He
another
was,
last 10 seconds walk off.
yeah, he really was. And I remember actually watching that fight live. It just like took me a while to remember like exactly what it was. And thinking like, wow, like he has dominated, this guy, this Jairzinho guy, and there's no way, he's just too green right now,
Right.
and out of nowhere, that's all it
Biggie
takes.
boy.
That's all it takes, man. Especially in the heavyweights. In the heavyweights, man, all
I
it
would
takes is
love
one.
to see him fight Derek Lewis. I think that would be a great matchup.
Yeah,
Uh, Still a little shocked about his fight with Ngannou. That was crazy to watch. I mean, 20 seconds and Ngannou just KOs him. Just goes to show you how sick Ngannou is, man. He's definitely
yeah,
getting the title fight next against Stipe. We'll talk about that in a little sec, but I cannot wait for that fight.
yeah, for
But
sure, for sure.
big props to Biggie Boy. Uh, Definitely going to be a perennial contender at the heavyweight division. Welcome to the top 5, young man.
Yeah.
All right. So next we move on to the co-main event here. And I know
Jesus.
you've got some opinions about this one.
Biggest
Sugar Sean
disappointment.
O'Malley,
Oh my
Marlon Chito
gosh.
Vera. Let's go. Juan, tell me about your thoughts on the fight, man. I know you love Sean O'Malley, right?
It's not that I like love Sean O'Malley. He was so intriguing to me. And when young fighters come along like that and they got a little flash, they got a little style, you can see they start to back it up. And also, I mean, he was TKOing people. I mean, he wasn't just winning by decision. There was no, yeah, it was literally going first round knockouts. I mean, that's respect, right? And
Definitely
then
shades of early Conor McGregor, calling out his shot, similar kind of style with very accurate, very precise striking. Maybe not the
mhm,
most powerful person in the world, but when he wants
mhm.
to hit you on the chin, he's going to hit you on the chin and you're going to feel it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But there's only one Conor McGregor, and I will say that Sean O'Malley brought this on himself, and I will say that he's just not. Last night proved he is just not durable enough to have a long lasting career in the UFC. He literally broke his own damn foot, So, but kind of like how whenever Connor started, which of course Connor was in a really dark, just bad place with the Habib fight, okay? But once he started going after Habib's family and his country and just taking jabs at his culture. I'm like, dude, you're setting yourself up with some real bad energy, man. And that is not good going into a fight, you know? Once Sean, and you know what? If you watch the Embedded series, Sean O'Malley, his girlfriend, is Latina. She should have known. And she's his hairdresser. She's a hairdresser. Like, that's what she does, right?
Yeah, they specifically dyed his hair those colors. So he went from the rainbow hair to the white, red, and blue because of that's the colors of the Ecuadorian flag, Marlon Vera being from Ecuador. Um, so I didn't really understand how to take that. Like, oh, I'm gonna dye my hair like your country's flag. Like that was weird. That was a
Well,
weird flex to
he
me.
was it was super weird. And I think that's probably the awkward gamer side of him, you know, it's just super kind of like uncomfortable introvert trying to be an extrovert, you know,
Hmm.
in a way. But you don't okay. when if you're from a Latin American country, really a lot of other countries in the world aside from the USA, you've got so much pride from where you've come from, you know. Obviously USA is, you know, it's a melting pot, but um dude, the moment that he dyed his hair the color of the flag of Ecuador and started going after his culture and going after his language and going after who he was as an Ecuadorian man, I knew, I'm like, dude, no, this is not good for you. Number one, he's got way more fights than you. Number
Hmm.
two, he's trying to crawl up the rankings. He is hungry. And you've got a little bit of fame and a little bit of a following. And I think you're getting a little bit too comfortable there, buddy, because he only had what, 12 fights before this? Come on, man. Come on. You know, and then he already had one significant injury. It took him what, like a couple years to recover, right?
2 years out of the ring after that. Yeah.
2 years out of the ring. Now this, and I mean, hey, you know, I've only broken one bone. Okay, I've only broken a finger in my life, and that was very painful. I've never broken a foot, sprained a bunch of ankles. I'm sure a broken foot hurts. I'm sure it hurts
Hmm.
really bad, right? But I don't know if you saw other fighters chime in on Twitter, and Mr. Wannabe Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor fought through a torn ACL and a torn MCL an entire fight. He did it in the first round. And he's gone in with a broken hand in fights. He's gone in with sprained ankles, and they've gotten worse throughout the fights. There's other fighters that have fought through tons and tons of pain, broken bones. Hell, even Wonder Boy Thompson went into a fight with a broken hand. Went into the fight with a broken hand.
That's
You know,
crazy.
I mean,
I
come
remember
on.
Rich Franklin fighting with a broken hand. I think when he knocked out Chuck Liddell. But I think the craziest one that I can remember, especially recently, was when Thiago Santos fought John Jones and he
Thank
tore
you.
everything in his knee in the first round and went
Everything
5 hard rounds with that
with
man. And
yeah,
honestly,
with the baddest man. Yeah.
honestly, I thought Jones lost that fight. Santos, man, and he was still throwing kicks both ways. So he was throwing it with the leg that he hurt
Yeah.
and throwing it planting on the leg that he hurt. Like that's crazy to me, man.
Yeah, because
I
he's a
can't even imagine
warrior.
that.
He's a
Yeah.
warrior. He's a fighter. That right there is a purebred fighting warrior, not 130 something pound, dye my hair, you know, all these different wacky colors. Get not
Well,
Sean O'Malley. Like,
I don't want to
no,
hate on the dyeing
no.
the hair colors. I mean, dyeing the Ecuadorian flag, I think that was weird. But like the
That's what I
rainbow
have
hair,
a
I
problem with.
liked. I love that he dyed his dog's hair the rainbow color too. I thought that was hilarious. The kid's done a great job of promoting himself and you know making a name for himself outside of the octagon through the
Yeah.
fame. You know, he's been given a platform and he's taken it and run with it. You know, I love what he's done on the business side of things. I
But
wonder
there's a
though,
but there. There's a but there.
I know he went through a period where he was vegan. I wonder if that somehow impacted his his body's ability to take these kind of the punishment of fight camps and fighting and all like, I don't know, man. There's something about vegan athletes and durability concerns.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like,
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I agree with you on, the dyeing of the hair. Just don't try to mock a man's country. That's silly. I agree with you on the platform, and he definitely has done a great job at marketing. But I think that he is focused way too much on that aspect, and he's not focused on the game. He's not focused on the fight game, and obviously, he needs a little bit more toughness. And to me, he just lacks durability. I don't see him lasting very long in the UFC. I mean, honestly, Marlon Vera, he could have. I don't know why he didn't pounce on him more, honestly, because it was very obvious
mhm.
whenever that happened, and that he was in significant pain. And he got some shots on him. He definitely got enough shots on him, but that was to my point earlier, that was a great stoppage for me, because yeah, even though he was still fighting back a little bit, why allow him to just get destroyed when the
Mhm.
fight's over and he's clearly in control, and he was landing enough shots to say, okay, it's over. So Herb came in and saved him for long-term damage right there. That's a little sidebar, but
Yeah, I completely agree with the stoppage in that fight. Especially just it didn't look like it was a big shot that sent him down. He was just off balance, and he was
mhm.
yeah. I mean, yeah, if I think he tripped and fell probably 2 or 3 times before that. Even I'd like to go back and see exactly when it happened. It kind of looked like he might have rolled it at one point, but before that, he checked a kick. I think Vera might have said that it was one of the kicks that did it. So be interesting to see what exactly caused the injury.
Mhm.
Um, just that I was rooting for O'Malley going into that one. Kid's at a point where he's got spectacular knockouts building on top of each other. His last 2 fights have been less than 1 round going into that. It looks like
Yeah.
he's on the cusp of really becoming a superstar. Gets a co-main event with DC and Stipe trilogy. Like, that's a huge spot right there.
Huge.
Just, oh man, hurts to see him go down in that kind of way. If he got KO'd and he was all good, it's different, but it was a kind of an underwhelming fight for me. Cheeto didn't get really a chance to prove himself either,
Yeah.
you know, and everybody's gonna say, oh yeah, you beat O'Malley, but he got hurt, so it's not like you like outfought him really. It's
Right.
just a tough spot for both of those guys. Curious to see where they book Cheeto going forward. Um, but Sean, man, that's tough.
I mean, I was rooting for him. I'm a huge McGregor fan. I love when fighters can have that charisma, and even going back to Muhammad Ali, being able to talk shit and back it up, to me, is the most alpha male thing that you can do. Telling someone, I'm the baddest in the planet, I'm badder than you, and now I'm going to do it to you in the ring, and then they do it. That's bad. That's
Mm-hmm.
badass. So that's why I've always been like a massive McGregor fan, and this kid was starting to show a little bit of that, and so I was rooting for him, but I still stand by it. I just don't think he's durable enough with two in a row. Two
He
bad
looks
injuries.
skinny as a rail at 135. I wouldn't mind
Mm-hmm.
seeing him go up to 145. You had mentioned the embedded going into this. I thought you were going to talk about when he was talking with his trainer about how he wants McGregor. It's like, dude, you don't want any part of that. You're 135, man. Like, nah, you don't want any part of that.
Oh my gosh, no! I mean, yeah, that would be that. No, the UFC would not do that, because they would not want to have a dead body. They would not want to be liable for a dead body. That would not be a good look in the UFC. Um, no, one thing that was hilarious though at the end. I don't know if you saw it, but Marlon Vera, he got up on the octagon, and he pointed at Dana White. And he said, "It's the Cheeto Show. Welcome to the Cheeto Show."
He was pointing at Rogan too. He's like, "Hey, Joe Rogan," and to get that man on JRE.
I know it. I know it. That's hilarious. And he was so hyped, screaming afterwards. Because I'm telling you, he took that very personally, very, very personally, what O'Malley was doing, the stuff that he was saying, and, Cheeto coming up to him and calling him out to his face, and O'Malley didn't say a word.
Yeah, and the stare
You know,
downs, that was very interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. What a
But
great
anyway,
ah yeah, anyway, moving
yeah,
along
yeah.
here.
We're and well, what sucks is, last thing I'll say. Well, what also sucks is, more than likely we're not going to see O'Malley until 2021. It's
Oh,
going to
guaranteed
take.
he's not coming back this year.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
at all. So I mean, he is going to be forgotten about, is another thing that I was thinking last night too. Is, okay, you had a quick flash of superstardom, right? You had a bunch of amazing knockouts, but then you've got these massive injuries, and now two different periods of time where you take a lot of time off because of these injuries, and leg injuries at that. It's not like he tore a labrum, it's not like he broke a finger. These are leg
Right.
injuries. I mean, that's intense. you know um you know what, this is a great opportunity for people to forget about him, and that sucks. That sucks.
Very true. Hopefully his Twitch stream will keep up some momentum for him and keep him in the fans' minds on some level. But mad
Yeah,
props to Marlon Vera, man. Got that immigrant mentality coming in.
that's right.
Um, can't wait to see what's next for him. Moving
Yeah,
on
for
to the
sure.
main event here.
Man.
This fight, man, oh my gosh. You know, usually in trilogies, you don't see one guy win by knockout and then the other guy win by knockout in a true rubber match where each one of them's going to knock out on the other. Very
Yeah,
seldom.
right.
Very seldom do you really even see a trilogy anymore these days. This fight had me on my feet the entire time, man. I felt like I was in the fight. Like I'm back here pacing across my room, like
I was. Look.
shaking, just so crazy. Going into this fight, one of the things that they had talked about was the eye pokes from the first two fights.
Yeah.
Stipe had some issues with DC poking him, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's one of the reasons Stipe hadn't fought in so long, was because his eye was recovering, and there was a time there where he wasn't really sure if he was ever going to be able to come back from it because his eye had sustained so much damage in that second fight. So then
Yeah. Yeah.
for, I think it was the first round, DC got an eye poke in, and here I am, here we go already.
Right.
Thankfully the ref caught that, separated them, and then it didn't look intentional when Stipe hit Daniel with the eye poke. It just kind of came throughout a flurry. Unfortunately, the ref wasn't able to catch it and step in because he kind of threw it in the midst of a combo, and the first
Mm-hmm.
shot of the combo is where the eye poke happened, and then he followed up with a right hook, it looked like, and really, really put a hurting on him. But I mean, DC's eye was already starting to swell up even before the eye poke. So, I mean, it's tough walking away that's kind of the one of the big talking points of the fight, and I think that discredits both guys' performance if you really focus on that too much, because you got two warriors going back and forth. Both of them landed some great shots.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them had a chance to bow out if they wanted to. I mean, both of them took enough punishment to where they could have gone down, but I think it just speaks to the toughness of both of them. Miocic being able to recover from the right hand at the end of the first round, and then DC being able to recover from Stipe's right hands in the second round and
Yeah.
go the distance on both of them. Just an incredible fight. I don't think there's any argument that Stipe is the GOAT at heavyweight, and DC is probably number 2 all time.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. And I just looked this up here. It says that Stipe had sustained a major retina injury from multiple eye pokes, and that was that fight before with with DC. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, man. These guys like to poke each other in the eye, you know. Uh, it's
You
like
could
guys,
tell after Daniel got him in the first round, like Stipe was pissed about that. And it
yeah,
kind of, it might have been the second round, actually, now that I think about it. Either way, it was one of the first two rounds. Like Stipe came out like with a fury. Initially, they were both nice and relaxed, moving around a lot, getting in and getting out. And after that first eye poke, I feel like things really kicked into high gear. And Stipe started bringing it. And then ultimately, both guys really started pushing the pace after that.
yeah, it is. I mean, 100%. I mean that was just such an ultimate fight. I can't believe that it actually went the distance.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't expect it to. I expected it to kind of end like in the fourth round or early in the fifth, super early in the fifth. Um, and Stipe did get rocked early on, but then he did get DC in a couple of bad positions too. So yeah, I mean, just such an even matchup. I feel like these guys love to just box it out, and I heard a good point earlier. I think it was maybe Ariel Hawani, and before this fight, DC was talking a lot about how he was going to take him to the ground. He was
Yeah,
just
he
going to
said,
do.
you better bring your wrestling shoes.
Yeah,
And there was a
not
lot of talk about the small octagon, too.
yeah. Not only did he not take him to the ground once, he did not have a takedown attempt, not one takedown attempt. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think
Didn't
that
he get him down in the first round? He had him in a bit of a guillotine, it looked like.
I don't believe so. Hey, if you quote me and I'm wrong, let's call it. But I don't I don't think
I
I
thought
don't
he,
think that he did.
on the official stats here, it says takedowns, DC was 1 for 2. He took him down
Ah,
middle to late of the first round, and he had him in a guillotine hold. And the announcers, the beginning of the fight, you're both still dry. It's harder to slip out of those. I kind of got a little nervous, and DC was putting some good pressure on his head, but Stipe was ultimately was able to back out of it. Um, but yeah, sorry to kind of throw you off there.
no, you're fine. I mean, I was probably just in so much of a daze, with that fight. I was just enamored, But yeah, I mean, unbelievable fight. I do think that whenever they got in there, they both realized how small that cage really is for two big heavyweights, you know, and it certainly doesn't give you much time to recover. I mean, you really have to retreat if you get rocked. You really
Mm-hmm.
got to retreat, which makes it even more obvious, where the normal size octagon, you got a little bit more room, you can kind of hide a little bit. Um,
Yeah, up your
but
lateral movement in that smaller octagon. And
for sure.
to your point, talking about how DC was, going into the fight saying, bring your wrestling shoes. I'm going to take him down a lot more. This, that. It was crazy to me that when they did get into grappling exchanges, Stipe was winning them. I still can't get over that.
He's,
Got the double underhooks, pushed
I
him into the
mean,
side of the cage, made sure to hold his right hand down. And I mean, he still did take a couple of those clean right hooks to the dome, which was
yeah,
starting to worry me because that's how he KO'd him in the first fight,
right.
obviously. But Stipe able to make that adjustment with his coaches, and I was shocked that he chose to engage in the grappling so much. Even more shocked that he didn't end up on his back at some point.
He's been hitting the gym. He's been hitting the gym. He's been working on his craft, and also, that's a good point because he showed that he is obviously the greatest of all time when it comes to the heavyweight division. And there's just that's just one more point right there that he proved. Hey, I can wrestle with one of the best wrestlers in this sport and come out on top, as well as I can sit there and box them, take them out. But going back to the eye poke, I mean, I know how it feels, and it sucks. Thankfully, mine didn't swell up, and I haven't lost any vision at all. That's a scary thing. I mean, when Rogan asked him after the fight, if he could see anything, and he said, "No, I see nothing but black." That has to be a very, very scary feeling. Again, just credits them, so much, for their toughness. I mean, actual warriors, not like, oh, I got a sprained ankle, O'Malley. But
Man,
but
that was hard for me to watch DC's post fight interview, man. Like I kind of got a little choked up myself for real. Like DC's a guy I didn't really appreciate him when he first came into the UFC, but
hmm
after watching him fight for so long now and hearing him commentate and getting a feel for who he is as a person, like
hmm
you just hate to see him go out like that. I really hope he has no long term effects with that eye. I hear it was like a partially torn cornea,
yeah,
and
yeah.
for now they're just going to kind of let it heal on its own rather than do any kind of surgery. So,
hmm
I know his wife's pregnant and they've got another baby coming on the way. So, nothing but love to DC. Would love to see him come back, but honestly, I really would prefer to see him stay retired. Um, I mean, what else is there for him to prove? You
Yeah,
know,
and I mean exactly, and to lose in that fashion, and that's also, I mean, I didn't realize how. I knew I was excited for the fight. I mean, I was amped for this fight, right? But I didn't realize until after I saw DC go out that way and his post fight interview, the way he walked out of the octagon. I mean, I was sad going. I was kind of sad going into this fight. I was excited and anxious and just let's go. I mean, this is gonna be badass. But also I was sad because a lot of fighters say they retire. I mean, hell, Connor's retired 20 times.
right?
But he's tweeting his out. He's not heartfelt, talking directly to the camera, talking directly to people in multiple interviews, saying, "No, guys, no. I know you want me back, but this really is it, guys. Like this is it. This is a legacy thing. I want to go out on top. I'm gonna go out as a champ." And then I believed him, like I truly believed. And again, I think it's because of him commentating and us getting a more of a look into his life, that now it's like, yeah, I believe that guy, because I was the same way. I didn't really appreciate him when he first came on because I kind of just thought he was corny. I respect him as
Super
a
corny.
fighter. Yeah,
Yeah.
super corny, and
And
I'm
he
just
just
like,
doesn't look like much. He doesn't have the
yeah,
physique at
yeah,
all of a guy that you would
by
think would be
by
able
any
to beat.
means, yeah, by any means, he makes me feel terrific when I go to the beach. I mean, I got all the confidence in the world standing next to DC. So yeah, no, totally. But I mean, it was very, very sad. I mean, it kind of brought me back to the moment where I knew that my football career was going to be done, via injury. And I'm like, man, like I'm not going to make the NFL. So either I can stay in this and continue to sustain potential lifelong injuries that are going to be nagging and hurting me, or I can hang it up and just be a regular student. So it kind of brought me back to that moment because that was probably, other than intense moments in life, losing people, to death. Man, I'm telling you, that was right up there. I mean, I
Some you remember
dedicated.
forever.
Yeah, I'll never forget that moment. I'll never forget that moment.
Yeah,
So,
same. I'll never forget walking up the field for the last time. I mean, I could play that day through my mind like it was yesterday. That whole
yeah,
week, honestly, leading up to it.
hmm
Um,
yeah,
but I mean, DC's what, 41. He's
hmm
had a great career. He was a champ.
yeah,
Nothing else to prove. Stay retired, big man. Go live your life with your family. He's got a
yeah.
great career lined up for him as a commentator and just the analyst
Phenomenal.
overall. Um, so Stipe, you saw Ngannou and John Jones both chattering after the fight.
Yeah,
They've Dana White came out and said, Francis is the guy. Francis
yeah.
has got to be the guy.
Francis is the guy. He's 100% the guy, and I think whenever John Jones comes back, because now it's evident he is coming back. Which I never thought that he would leave. I mean, with
Well, when he retired, he said he was retiring for the next year or two. Like, what the hell is that, John? Like,
yeah,
you're not retiring. You're like, hmm.
it's an excuse to
But
not get tested and go party.
I would love to see Stipe versus John. I think their body types and their skill sets match up really well. if you look at the guys that have given John trouble, generally are good strikers that move well. Dom Reyes,
Mm-hmm.
Gus in the first fight. Um,
Yeah.
I think Stipe. I would bet on Stipe if I had to going into that fight, but I really, really do want to see John at heavyweight at some point. But there's no way he jumps over Francis. The only thing I could
Yeah.
possibly see playing out where John does get that shot is if Stipe decides to take off for the rest of the year or longer than they want to keep him on ice or keep the champ on ice. And in the
Mm-hmm.
meantime, they do like Jones and Ngannou for the number one contender. But I don't see Jones coming up unless it's for a title. So, I mean, I don't think that's super realistic. But I mean, Stipe versus Francis, if you look at it, Stipe's already got a win over Francis.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Surprisingly, he was able to take some pretty good shots from him and stay,
Yeah.
stay alive, stay conscious.
Stipe, man. Jeez.
He had a great game plan in that fight. I think this experience fighting DC 3 times and being able to not get taken down last night at will, he's got to have a lot of more confidence in his grappling and his ground game. I could see him getting in close and pushing Francis against the cage and getting that dirty boxing going.
Mm-hmm.
I know Francis has improved a lot since that first fight, but honestly, I'm not so sure it goes a whole lot different than the first one did.
Yeah, I agree. I think, going back to Jones, there's there's no way it's going to be Jones. I think whenever Jones comes back, you do Jones Reyes. That's definitely the fight. And if John Jones wins that, and he wants to come up for a title fight after Stipe and Francis fight, then yeah, okay. But it's crazy because obviously Francis has come a long way since that fight. He looks like an absolute just monster, but he did before too. And
Mm-hmm.
and Stipe took care of him. They both have more experience, but he's also got more experience, like you said. I mean, going against DC, I mean, one of the best ever. It's tough because when you look at the two, you're like, oh man, Stipe's going down.
Yeah, right.
When you look at the two side by side, it's like, okay, there's no chance that Stipe walks away. But yeah, man, at this point, there's no way I'm ever betting against Stipe again.
Yeah.
And I wasn't betting against him last night. I just felt like because of the legacy, because of the emotion, and maybe he let it get the best of him. I mean, obviously he still performed amazingly, but I just thought because of the storybook ending that DC would pull it off. I believe that he would pull it off. But then again, it's like you can't argue with Stipe. You can't argue with him. He's absolutely unbelievable. And it's funny because that actually brings up something to my mind. I was thinking about this today. You know, I don't mind it. I don't mind like, saying this person's the GOAT, that person's the GOAT in UFC. But also at the same time, I think we should kind of just be like, well, they're one of the best. Just because the UFC hasn't been around for that long. You know? I mean, if you think about it, it's like, oh, they're the greatest ever. Well, it's like, well, the ever is like 25, 30 years. It's like the sport has not been along for that. I mean, if we're talking the greatest ever football player, running back, well, football's been around for a long time. If we're talking about the GOAT, pitcher, for baseball, baseball's been around for a long, long time. And that, to me, I get it. I mean, we don't have enough examples. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like he is one of the greatest. I don't know if he's the greatest of all time because in 10 years, there could be some ridiculous monster that comes along and then we're like, well, man, Stipe would have gotten chewed up and spit out, you know? Just an interesting little sidebar I had. I was thinking about that today. I'm like, man, because everyone's so quick to throw around, oh, the GOAT, the GOAT, the GOAT, the GOAT. Well, okay, Kobe, he's one of the greatest, Jordan, one of the great. You can't argue that. But again, basketball's been around for a long, long time. I don't know how you feel on that, but that's just.
I mean, I don't know. As a fan, I think those conversations are always going to pop up. I mean, it's really.
I would just
You talk
rather
about
people say, sorry, I would just rather hear people say, including us, well, up to this point, he's the greatest that we've seen at heavyweight, or up to this point in the UFC's short history as a whole, DC has been one of the most dominant, one of the most decorated, one of the most well-respected, well-rounded, whatever that we have seen thus far, rather than being like, oh, well, he's the greatest of all time. Well, all time for you guys is not really a long time,
Yeah, but I mean, it's still all time that the sport has been around. It's not like you could say, "Oh, he's going to be better than everybody that comes into the future." Like what? Like who would even try to make that argument? You know what I mean? Like
I don't know. I just, like I said, maybe it's just me nitpicking, and I was just getting annoyed with it earlier because I kept on listening to things, and even Dana was like, "Oh, he's the GOAT." Well, also Stipe's the GOAT. Well, it's like, well, what? And John Jones is the GOAT. It's like, what? I mean, I know they're different divisions, but I'm just like, I think we're throwing around this term a little loosely here.
I mean, I definitely can agree that there's some, loose lips thrown around the GOAT status, and a lot of people like to say that they're a GOAT, but I think clearly Stipe Miocic is the best heavyweight, the most well-rounded heavyweight that the UFC has ever had.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And when you talk about pound for pound GOAT, that's a conversation I'm a lot less interested in, because you're getting into these hypotheticals, and somebody might say it's Jones, or somebody might say it's Henry Cejudo or Khabib or something. It's like I don't see a whole lot of value in making those kind of comparisons.
Yeah,
definitely, especially not Henry Cejudo. Don't get me started on that.
He was extra mouthy after last night.
Was he? What was he? Oh, about O'Malley?
Oh, big time, big time. But I mean, rightfully so. There was a few others that they came in there and were just ripping O'Malley, and it was fighters. God, I wish I would have screenshot. You know what? I might have screenshotted it. Actually, I believe I did. I planned ahead. Yes, I did. Henry Cejudo. I fought DJ and Marlon with no legs, which is just funny. It's just funny hearing that. This two-pump chump broke his nail and can't compete. # levels. He said he broke a nail and he could. And then Cody No Love just simply said, "Some people aren't made for war." # sugar free.
That's good. That's good. That's good stuff right there.
Classic. Yeah. Yeah.
I love seeing Cody get the title shot at 125, dropping down there. Curious to see how he looks. But
yeah,
when you talk about Cejudo, like, I think he's so overrated, man. Like, okay, so he beats Demetrius Johnson in their rematch, which a lot of people say he didn't win that fight. I don't agree with that. I do think he won that fight.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't dominate, but I thought he clearly won at least 3 rounds. And then, I mean, did he ever he defended the 125 belt against TJ Dillashaw. Dillashaw looked super depleted in that fight coming down, already being tiny at 135. It looked like a strong breeze could have taken Dillashaw out that fight. So he only defends the belt once. He's got 2 championship wins at 125, moves up to 135 for a vacated title against Marlon Moraes. Moraes just looked like the moment was too big for him at that point. He looked good in the first round, and then he just looked like a deer in headlights from the second round on. I've never been super impressed with that guy. And then his one defense at 135 was against Dominic Cruz, who hadn't fought in years, and really, in my eyes, hadn't done anything to deserve a title shot coming back. It's not like he had come back and won a couple fights and proven that he was, there's another guy that's got durability issues. But Cejudo, for some people to call him, for me to even put Cejudo in the GOAT conversation is comical. He does not want any part of Petr Yan.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And he was doing everything to dodge Yan. And I mean, I think that's why he walked out. He doesn't want to defend against that murderer's row at 135, man. Not saying that all of those guys could beat him. I'd love to see Sterling fight Cejudo. I think his style matches up really well against him, but Yeah, I'm fired up, man. Cejudo pisses me off, dude.
I'll say this about Cejudo, and you're probably gonna like it. Um, as far as because I mean, yeah, he's got the two belts or whatever. He retired, on top and all that. Hey man, good for you, great for you. It sounds like he got a lot of very favorable matchups at very favorable times,
Yes.
for sure. And honestly, yeah, if anyone were ever to say that he is one of the greatest, if I was drinking a drink, I would spit it up, and I would just start laughing. And this is I'm not even trying to knock. I'm being dead honest. I didn't know who Henry Cejudo was a year and a half ago.
Seriously?
I never heard of the guy. I didn't know who he was. And I'm always like, or I would see his name and just be completely not interested in ever watching the guy fight. And now
So I
I've seen
remember
his fights, but
I
I
remember watching his first
don't
fight
know.
when he came in. He's got this huge rep coming over as an Olympic champion gold medal wrestler. So,
Mm-hmm.
wrestling's a great base to have in MMA. I remember his first title shot against Demetrius. His striking was nowhere near there yet. That was, I believe, his only loss in his MMA career. Surprisingly wins the rematch against Demetrius. I mean, he ran through most of the guys that he fought. Oh, no. He lost to Joe Benavidez back in the day.
Hmm.
And Benavidez was calling him out to defend his 125 belt. And that's when he ran up to 135. Like, dude, if you're running away from Benavidez, like, what are you doing? I
Yeah.
was, I kind of lost some respect for him at that point to not try to go in and avenge that loss against Benavidez, who is by no means a world beater. So, like, what are you running away? I get that he's not going to do anything for your name, but you wanna avenge the losses you have on your record.
Unless you just want to be a paper champ, which is kind of what I feel like he is just a paper champ. He just got the right right fights at the right time. And if you're a paper champ, well, why you're not interested in going back and avenging a loss because you're on to the next one. Because a real champ, a real warrior, someone who had pride and all that, yeah, they're gonna want to run it back with everybody that they lost against if it makes
Immediately, yeah.
sense. Yeah, if it makes sense for them, obviously, but they're at least gonna want it. You know, that's like obviously there's no title in, well, I guess the BMF, but everyone I feel like has no doubt in their mind that Masvidal would 100% run it back with Diaz, but who knows when it's going to be because Masvidal is in a totally different place in his career right now than Diaz. So it may not be favorable, but I 100% believe that he would want to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, I thought Masvidal clearly won that fight. I'm not
Clearly,
one of those people that was mad about the stoppage there. I honestly don't see a rematch going a whole lot differently. Um,
I don't
Nate
either, but
definitely.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I feel like Nate will pop back into the spotlight here soon with either a Connor fight or that Masvidal fight.
Masvidal is a very like prideful, dude, and he's big on paying respects. It's stuff like the Latin culture, right? I think that's more of the reason why he wants to do it is because in Masvidal's mind, Diaz really gave him the opportunity and the platform to just get blown out. I mean, his superstardom. I mean, geez, his stock skyrocketed. So he feels grateful for that. And even though he gave him the 3-piece of soda and a little something on the side, I mean, he filled him up, with shots. Yeah, there's no way Diaz ever beats Masvidal in a fight. Maybe if Masvidal, stubs his toe like and pulls a sugar
O'Malley.
free a sugar free O'Malley.
I'm not the biggest Nate Diaz fan in the world, but I definitely respect how he took the Masvidal fight because he respected him as a fighter and
Yeah,
knows that he's
yeah,
going to bring it and he's going to try to stand up and he's not going to try to ground and pound him or anything like that.
yeah.
Um, Speaking of 3-piece and soda, Leon Edwards versus Masvidal is a fight that they have to make at some point, man. I'm surprised that they haven't made that fight yet. The story was written for it. at the
It,
time. Like that was awesome.
he literally, yeah, exactly. 100%. I mean, that's where it all came from.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to see it. I I think it's probably a money thing, man. It's probably a marketing thing. Like,
Leon's just not a big enough name for Jorge at this time.
no. I mean, I
Makes sense.
remember I remember whenever it happened, and I'm like, oh man, he pieced some dude up. And then I hear his name, and I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that guy. And then time goes on, you keep on hearing the three piece of the soda, but you never hear the guy's name because the guy's so forgettable, you know. So from a marketing standpoint, yeah, I mean,
I
it's
mean,
almost like Connor being like, "Who the fuck is that guy?" You know, to Jeremy Stephens. It's like, who
which is
is this
all time
guy?
classic.
All
But
time
at the same
classic.
time, Leon's riding like I believe, a 8 fight win streak right now. And he's
He's
fought some big names,
Yeah,
maybe
he
not
is
the
doing
biggest
work.
names, but some tough dudes in there.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt bad, for Leon throughout this whole coronavirus thing and him having to be quarantined in Great Britain. He's a tough guy, man. He's got a ton of potential to become a star.
Hmm.
And I think it's kind of only a matter of time. They got to get that guy back in the octagon one way or another, man.
Is that are they just? Is it still like a no fly? Like they can't leave the country right now over there? Is that what it is?
I don't know 100%, but I know that when they were trying to book Masvidal and Usman and it fell through initially, Leon was a guy that was in the talks there and they just couldn't make it work. He wasn't able to get out of the country at that point. So
Hmm.
hopefully sometime, before the end of the year, we can see him back in the octagon because, yeah, that's a guy that's, really riding a good win streak right now and got a ton of talent. He's got a
Hmm.
really exciting style. I mean, he's a guy that if he gets enough eyes on him, he's going to get fans. He's definitely going to. But
Yeah.
I get what you mean, though. Why would Masvidal want that fight at this point? He's such a bigger name than him right now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, can you imagine the difference in what they would make on that fight?
Oh, it'd
I
be crazy.
mean, it would be, it would probably be, something like what a DC or a Stipe would make, a half a mil on the fight versus like 85. I mean, it would be
They
crazy.
got to give Leon 6 figures. They got to.
Okay, 101. That's it. That's all my man is getting. Yeah, I mean, it's just yeah, and it's just like it's not gonna, you know, Masvidal would be doing more for him than he would be doing, for Masvidal for sure in that fight,
Definitely.
especially whenever Masvidal could just, give a Diaz rematch, piece him up again, and then try to regain the hype to get another, shot at the title or fight another person, that's in line, for it. So maybe finally the Colby Covington fight happens. Woo.
That would be fun. We'll have to see what happens with Colby and T Wood. They're booked for, I
Yeah,
believe, September. I can't wait for that fight.
yeah,
3 or 4 years ago, I would have had Woodley in that one, but I think Colby takes him just based off how Woodley has looked in his last couple fights. I mean,
yeah,
Usman ran through him, but Usman kind of does that to a lot of people. But then Gilbert Burns dominated T Wood.
yeah.
Curious to see what happens with Burns. Got a feel for the guy after booking him for the title fight, and then he tests
Hmm.
positive for COVID. 2 weeks or whatever before the fight.
Yeah.
Uh, you hate that for that guy, but hopefully he can get back in the ring sometime soon. That would be a great matchup: Leon Edwards versus Gilbert Burns. I
There
would
you
love to
go.
see that. Curious to see what they give Usman. Seems like he's kind of taking a little breather right now after that Masvidal battle. But I wanted to touch on something here real quick before we wrap up. I know we had kind of talked about John Jones. Um, with the 205 division, it looks like you're getting some good contenders, rising to the top there. I know uh, Santos is coming back from his injury finally, and he's fighting again this year. And then Dominic Reyes looks like a bona fide star in the making. How long are they going to let Jones hold up the title in that division? Because
You
if
know,
if he's saying now that he wants to move up to heavyweight, which I think is a great move for him and his legacy, I think if he doesn't ultimately move up to heavyweight, his legacy is going to fall short of what it could be. But if he does, do you strip him of the title? How long can you keep him on the shelf with all these young studs coming up at 205?
Yeah, I mean, if it was me, I would just pay John the money, pay the guy, make sure that he's got his head on straight, you know. I mean, they could put so many things in a contract, that he
What
would
could
have
you
to
do though to make sure he keeps his head on straight? And do
just
you really want that?
take his money. I mean, that would make that changes, I mean, it's like, hey, if you test for something, or if you have some public outburst, or if you do something that, one more thing to tarnish the reputation of the UFC, or if you go out here and, swing on somebody at a weigh-in, or whatever it may be, I mean, I don't know if they structure their contracts like that, but I would only assume so. I mean, that would be smart on their part. Um,
He seems like a guy that doesn't really know what his character is. Like he's stuck in between trying to be a baby face and doing these things. Like I know when the riots were out, he was out there like stopping people from defacing buildings, and now he's
yeah,
got a big a charity thing going on. And it's like, okay, are you a good guy, John Jones, or are you the guy that does cocaine the week of the fight and talks shit to DC when you're off the mic and is trying to be a bad boy? Like
yeah,
I just don't think
yeah,
he knows what his character is. And I mean, that sounds superficial, but it's really not. That's a big part of it. And being able to build yourself up as a sellable asset for the company. The fans need to know what you are. Are you a good guy or are you a bad guy? And if you're a
yeah.
heel, buy into that. And if he's not a face and he sucks at being a heel, you know?
I think at the end of the day, it all just depends on his current levels of serotonin and dopamine. I think that's at the end of the day what it all boils down to. Is are your serotonin and dopamine levels even right now, or are they a
Are
little
you good,
off?
bro?
Because we could get a very reading from the Bible, quoting John Jones and thanking everyone and looking them in their eyes and giving them a handshake and helping the community board up their businesses, or yeah, exactly. I totally agree. The whole DUI thing with the loaded gun and like the blow, like that's crazy.
What are you
Like,
doing, man?
yeah, it's like, dude, you're living such a stupid, reckless life for no reason. Like, dude, like, I mean, I actually don't know like about his upbringings and whatnot, but man, like, come on, dude, like, what are you doing? Like at this point, like, there's no excuse, man. Like, you've been a pro athlete for long enough. You lost a Nike contract. How are you not wising up from that?
I can't
You,
imagine how much money he lost ultimately from all that.
dude, he lost a Nike contract at the same time he lost a Gatorade contract. Those companies are, they're pretty
Kind of
big.
big. Kind of big.
Yeah. Whenever they do endorsement deals, it's pretty big. Like, what are you doing?
So I was just
Crazy,
pulling something
crazy.
up over here to see some of the other contenders at 205 because there's been a lot of talk about the Reyes rematch with Jones, but
It's gotta be, gotta be.
something that hasn't been talked about is Santos getting a rematch. So I just wanted to see. I know they had announced something for him. It looks like September 12th they've got Maheta fighting Glover Teixeira. Teixeira is a dangerous guy, but I think that'll get Thiago back in the win column. And ultimately, if John is unwilling to fight either one of, I think you could plug either one of those guys in and have a great title fight with Jones again. But I think if Jones isn't going to defend his title, you've got to put Santos versus Dominic Reyes as the title fight. I think those two guys against each other would be an amazing matchup. I would love to see that fight.
Yeah, what's Corey? What's actually no? What's Anthony Smith been up to? He kind of
Smith's
got
got a fight
worked.
coming up. Corey Anderson
Yeah,
left the UFC recently.
he's still. They need to update this. Then I've still got him in here at number 5. But
I think it was in the
um,
past month, kind of out of nowhere. He signed with Bellator, I think.
that's odd.
Yeah, really
Well,
weird.
yeah, I mean, I would love to see. I would love to see Reyes Santos
Yeah,
because
that's a fight right there, man.
that's a fight, and you've got because basically what's going to happen, or I feel like what's going to happen, if and when he comes back, and he comes back at lightweight or light heavyweight, sorry, uh, he can't go and fight Santos and then Reyes or Reyes and then Santos, even though they're both deserving of a rematch. I feel like they're gonna give him one of those two, and it's probably gonna be Reyes.
There's definitely more heat with the Reyes fight. I don't know if
For
that's just
sure.
because Santos was injured, so his name kind of was removed, but definitely more heat with the Reyes fight.
I think it was the injury, really. I mean, that's my opinion. So yeah, I feel like you know he does that. He takes one of those. It's probably going to be Reyes, and then from there he does make the jump, and he does try to go to heavyweight. And if the timing is right, he fights the winner of Francis and Stipe, maybe. I
I would
because I'm
just, I love that idea. I would just hate for him to stay on the shelf to wait for the Francis Stipe winner without taking on one of those contenders at 205 because I
yeah.
think those guys are super deserving at 205 and there's a lot of good talent in that division that's kind of just waiting in the wings because of John Jones and you can see those guys are really starting to get frustrated with the situation.
Why do I not know this number 3? Jan. Is this? Am I
Jan
on?
Blachowicz?
Jan. I said Jan. Jan. is it? Is that you over there, Jan? I knew that was you. Hell far, I knew that was you, Jan, the whole time. Jan.
He's a power puncher. He's definitely got big time knockout power.
Why can I not picture him? I cannot picture him.
He kind of he looks a little bit like a Stipe at 205, honestly.
That's funny.
Yeah. I forget who his last fight was. I feel like he KO'd the hell out of somebody unexpectedly.
Here we go. Now I'm finally on the updated. I'm on the UFC. I was on like some betting site earlier. Not where to go. Johnny Walker, man. I always love hearing that name.
Man, you want to talk about a hype train that got derailed.
Derailed. Yeah, it was coming in fast too. It was coming in real
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah, so Blachowicz KO'd Corey Anderson in his last fight in February of this year. He
Okay.
beat Jacare last year. He beat oh, that's what it was. He KO'd Luke Rockhold, dude. Oh my gosh, he
Mm,
put a hurt. And I think that was Luke's last fight. And after that, he was like, all right, I'm out. And then before that, he lost to
yeah.
Santos. Santos is a beast, man. He's so underrated.
Santos is he's such a dude. That's probably if we might have to rank one day we might have to rank all time most intimidating tattoos in the UFC and
Oh,
put
he's
Santos coming
got to
in at
be
number
top
1.
three. Yeah, yeah. He puts Brock Lesnar to shame with that. Like what Brock
Yeah.
was trying to do, Santos came through with.
Yeah. I
Can
mean
you
that's
imagine running into that guy in a dark alley?
yeah. Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah, he's
Or,
terrifying.
or hell on a beach
Yeah, right.
in a very pleasant setting, like a very amazing environment. And you throw a football and miss it, and it like spills his drink or something, and then
And
that guy
you're
stands up, and you're like, oh
he needs to be on
shit,
one of those memes where it's like this guy comes up and smacks your girl's ass. What do you do?
right? Yeah, a whole bunch of
Yeah,
nothing. Yeah,
walking away. Come on,
yeah,
baby, it's time to leave.
yeah. How'd that feel, baby? Feel all right? Okay, good. Let's keep on walking. We got something to do.
Oh man. Well, I think we covered a lot here. I think
Yeah,
probably a good point to wrap it up. Just a great night of fights last night.
Amazing.
Sometimes you have the early fights steal the show. Last night was definitely not the case. The main event, came through, lived up to the hype. By far, for me, was the most exciting fight of the night. Um, what tell us what you guys think. Give us a like, subscribe, share, comment. Let's hear what you want to hear us talk about for the next time. This is probably going to be a recurring segment for us, breaking
Yeah.
down the fights anytime there's a big weekend fight. Something we do anyway, so might as well keep you guys engaged and in on the conversation. That's all I got. Juan, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think after last night, amazing night overall. We learned a lot about some fighters, and we definitely learned, who's ready to show up and who's not. Like you said, the main event was unbelievable. Um, Crazy, crazy matchup. Stipe obviously proved himself. DC, he's got nothing more to prove. I mean, what a guy, what a fighter. It was sad to see him go out like that. And I don't want to see him come back and pull a Chuck Liddell and fight for too long,
Mm-hmm.
and have that, just have that in my mind. But
Especially with
yeah,
how strong those top heavyweights are, and Ngannou and Rosenstrike and Derek Lewis. Like, you don't need to
yeah,
take that punishment, DC. Just hang them up and ride off into the sunset,
yeah.
man. You've had a great career.
Exactly, exactly. And I love listening to him call fights.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He's awesome. He's awesome. But yeah, other than that, like he said, this is gonna be a recurring segment for sure. We're gonna break down UFC fights upcoming and then post show. So definitely, yeah, like, comment, subscribe. You know exactly what to do. Eventually we'll get Instagram and all that stuff going. I think we're just gonna post on our personal stuff. And we've definitely got some guests coming soon. I know we mentioned that in the last one, and I'm really really pumped. A lot of music industry people as well are going to be on here. Some musicians, hopefully some of the larger artists that I've booked. I'm going to try to hit them up as well, and it's going to be good times. So we know you've got nothing else going on since it's COVID, and most of you all don't have jobs. So listen to us.
Stay tuned for more. That's it for us, guys. Have a good one.
Peace, guys.